So, folks, we need to talk about Donald J. Trump and him continuing as president of the United States. Because, frankly, this is insane. The situation we find ourselves in, aside from anything that Donald Trump is doing, is that he is incapable of communicating any coherent thought. Any coherent thought whatsoever. When he is up on stage, he just talks. But none of the words mean anything.
I remember training with the SEALs. I was the best at keeping a ball balanced on my nose.
Seals are really cute and I like them. They have nice noses. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. But here's what I mean. This is like the perfect encapsulation. You know, he was over an hour late to address the troops, which I might add, if your plan is to deploy the US military to occupy US cities and US soil, being over an hour late to address them doesn't really speak of urgency, doesn't really speak of, like, the necessity of it. You know, this is all deeply unserious, but let's play the clip. Let's play the clip, and then we will play it once in its totality, and then we will play it and break it down.
I don't want to be politically correct anymore. And history will never forget that it was the SEALs who stormed the compound at Osama bin Laden and put a bullet in his head. Remember that? And please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year ago, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center. And I said, you got to watch Osama bin Laden. And the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true. But I said 1 year before to Pete Hegseth, I said 1 year before, where's Pete? In the book, I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you. But I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like it, and you got to take care of him. They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center. So we got to take a little credit because nobody else is going to give it to me. You know the old story? They don't give you credit, just take it yourself. And it was the U.S. Navy that dumped his wretched corpse off the decks of the Carl Vinson to sink into the dark
Trump
abyss.
makes my brain hurt.
That he does. Thank you for subscribing with Prime, Paige Larson.
I don't want to be politically correct anymore.
Okay, so what you just heard is just complete nonsense. None of it makes any sense whatsoever. None of it. None of it makes a lick of sense. You can start trying to, like, piece together maybe what that means. But we're talking, like, you're deep diving into, like, the item descriptions to piece together, like, an overarching narrative, like Dark Souls. You know, like, we're talking, like, this man's brain is just absolutely cooked, and you have to do all of the legwork when that's not your job. It's his job to communicate to us. He needs, the President of the United States, bare minimum, needs to be a clear communicator. And this is not that. I can tell you that much. Let's try to break down what the hell he means by any of this.
I don't want to be politically correct anymore. And history will never forget that it was the SEALs who stormed the compound at Osama bin Laden and put a bullet in his head. Remember that?
Okay. So, the Navy SEALs stormed Osama bin Laden's compound, put a bullet in his head. Okay. Simple enough. All right? Where does it go from here?
And please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year ago, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center.
So, remember that I wrote about it 1 year before, and then he stops and says, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center. And so he's talking about writing something in 2000. All right, this would have been the year 2000. And he then said, but then he says the year before, you know, he initially starts off the year before the killing of Osama bin Laden, but then he says the year before killing, you know, the World Trade Center, 9/11. And why? Like, it's like he's trying to take credit for, like, the military killing Osama bin Laden. It's genuinely insane. Like, that's where his brain wants to go. And you see it in this moment. That's where his brain wants to go. He wants to be like, I killed Osama bin Laden.
And I said, you got to watch Osama bin Laden. And the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true, but
I was always against Osama, Barack Hussein Osama bin Laden, a terrible president.
I mean, he's one bad day away from saying something like that, you know? Like, his brain is that cooked. But, so, okay. He is trying to say that a year before 9/11, he wrote down on paper something about Osama bin Laden being shady. All right, let's just back that up.
news would never let me get bin Laden, and the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true, but I...
So then he goes, the fake news, which, again, he's saying all of that news is made up of liars. And again, so the lying media wouldn't let him get away with that unless it's true. But if they're liars, they would just let him get... what? That doesn't make any sense. It's contradictory, okay?
I said 1 year before to Pete Hegseth. I said 1 year before. Where's Pete?
So he now says 1 year, he says this, that he said this statement to now Pete Hegseth. Not that he wrote it down anywhere, but he said it to Pete Hegseth, and he's trying to say like a year before 9/11. But Pete Hegseth wasn't working for Fox News at the time. He was still in the National Guard. So like, what is he talking about? Genuinely, what is he talking about?
In the book, I wrote whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you, but
he wrote, like, in the book he wrote, but he can't remember the title of the book? Like, guys, like, there are so many elements of this where it's just his brain is gone. His brain is gone. He can't even string together a somewhat coherent lie.
I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like it, and you got to take care of him.
What does that mean? I saw this guy named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like him. And so I told them that you have to take care of this guy. I don't like him. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't like him, why? What was disturbing?
They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center, so we got to take a little credit because nobody else is going to give it to me, you know?
You gotta take a little bit of credit for what?
I love how the last 6 months of the last presidency was both sides claiming their candidate was mentally fit.
Yeah, it is insane, Sake Tanuki. Like, so he's trying to take credit for what exactly? The world, the attack on 9/11? Is he trying to take credit for what? Because they didn't stop Osama bin Laden from doing 9/11. What credit are you taking here? That the leader of the Taliban was bad pre-9/11?
This motherfucker has control of our entire nuclear arsenal. What are we doing? Like, this is a nightmare. Also, hi Jack. Much love.
Lady Raincloud, thank you for the $5 dono. But that's my entire point. Like, there is some comfort, right, in the idea that, like, even if you had a competent bad person in charge of the United States, that they wouldn't necessarily just on a whim launch a nuclear weapon at a country they perceive as like a threat. This guy is just, I mean, like, can you honestly tell me, any one of you, that you are not convinced, or that you are 100% convinced this man wouldn't just on a whim launch a nuke? Dude is nuts. Dude is off the map.
The old story. They don't give you credit, just take it yourself. And it was the U.S. Navy that dumped his wretched corpse off the decks of the Carl Vinson to sink into the dark abyss. I want to be politically...
But, like, all of that in the space of a minute. And I just want to really emphasize here, this man should not be president of the United States. This man does not have the mental stamina or acumen to be president of the United States. Every minute that he remains in power and isn't, like, removed by Congress or via 25th Amendment is a threat to the entire country. Like, this is insane. Dark abyss, you mean the sea? Yes, he's talking about the sea. So, like, I just want to say, I know it's all painfully obvious to us who cover this every day, but I think sometimes it bears repeating. This man should have been impeached months ago. He does not have the mental fortitude to be president of the United States. Nay, he does not have the mental horsepower to be president of the United States. So, I just... It is... His brain is gone. And I think, like, we really need to start mainstreaming the idea that this man is Bidening faster than Joe Biden ever did. You know? And with that, we're moving on. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, folks. But this is truly just jaw-droppingly awful that a man like this is in charge of our country. And we should not tolerate that.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's